All right, just like always, we are going to start with the bell work. So what do you guys think? What is a cycle? So that's an example of a cycle, Jacob. Good, Angelina. So Angelina has the definition, a series of events that gets repeated. And then Jacob had an example, the hydrologic cycle. What's another name for hydrologic, Jacob? What's the simple name for that? Do you know? What does hydro mean? Or does anyone else have any other examples? Water. Good, Desiree. Yep, Jacob, water. The hydrologic cycle is the fancy scientific name for the water cycle. Can anybody think of anything else that goes through cycles? Girls, especially you. Life does have cycles. Yep, life cycle. At least out in nature, they have cycles. Plants have cycles, yeah. One part of girls' puberty is a cycle. But puberty is usually just a series of events that happens. Yeah, the menstrual cycle, girls should all know that. Reproductive cycle, yep, your periods, yep. That is a cycle that happens over and over and over again. All right, next question. What is a phase? And can you guys name something that goes through phases? Anybody? Part of a cycle, good. A phase is like a step or part of a cycle. Can you guys think of anything that goes through? Moon goes through phases. Good, Angelina. You guys can look up at the sky and see the moon in different phases at different times of the month. And root words. Cyto we used a lot last semester. Do you guys remember what cyto means? C-Y-T-O. Talked about cytoplasm. Cell, good. Cyto means cell. And does anyone know what kinesis means? Movement, that's a good one. It's a specific direction of movement. It's moving away. So kinesis means to split. Two things moving away from each other. And what is that organelle in the picture? It's one from chapter 3 that we went over. Centrioles, good, Angelina, good, Desiree. Yep, those are centrioles. All right, moving on. Our essential question, how do cells grow and reproduce? And cells go through cycles that have distinct phases of growth, reproduction, and normal function. Sometimes they're called phases, sometimes they're called stages, but they're just a part of the whole cycle. And that GIF is just an overview of the cell cycle and what happens. And it should be a piece of the video that you guys are watching this week. The cell cycle has 4 stages or phases. The word form is on the left, the picture form is on the right. You guys can learn it either way. G1, S, G2, and M. G1, the cell grows and performs its normal functions. You think it stands for growth, it actually stands for gap. It is the gap where it looks like nothing's really happening, but the cell's just going out and is normal and growing. S is when the DNA is copied. It's also called DNA synthesis. That's where the S comes from. G2 stands for gap 2. and more growth happens here. The cell also double checks the duplicated chromosomes for any errors, making repairs. And M. M includes division of the nucleus. That process is called mitosis. And the division of the cytoplasm. And that is cytokinesis, when the cell actually splits or moves away from each other. Mitosis and cytokinesis will be the focus of next week. Cells divide at different rates. Some divide really, really, really fast. Some divide really slow. The rate at which your cells divide is linked to your body's need for those cells. The rate of cell division is greater in embryos and children than in adults. Embryos and children are still growing, so they need their cells to divide more rapidly than adults do. The rate also varies among different organs. You shed skin cells rapidly and therefore need to replace them quickly. You can see in the chart, skin cells only last about 2 weeks before they get shedded and become dust all over your house. So your body needs to make more every 2 weeks. Oops, sorry. Red blood cells last 4 months. On the bottom, intestines and muscle cells last 16 years, so your body doesn't need to make those so often. And cell size is limited. If cells are too small, they couldn't contain all the necessary organelles. You know, all the different organelles, there's like 15 of them that get stuffed into your cell, so they need to be a certain size to be able to fit everything. But if they grow too large, vital functions such as nutrient transport might slow down and couldn't keep the cell alive. So cells need a certain amount of water and oxygen, nitrogen, other nutrients. If it's too big, that stuff doesn't travel very well. So it can't get across the cell to all the parts it needs to go to. To maintain the right cell size, growth and division must be coordinated. Cells can't get too big. They also can't grow out of control. When cells grow out of control, they escape the cell cycle and their checkpoints. That is when cancer happens. And that is what you guys are learning about in your Ed puzzle this week.